All right, our first guest tonight is Scott Elkins. Scott, come on in.
Hey Amber, thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Now tell us what your connection with John Waters is.
My connection, I just as a young kid, I think I saw a movie and I just knew something was a little different about him, about his characters, about his films, and there was some queerness I think about him too that wasn't really like I was in my area where I was raised. I didn't see a lot of queerness, of course, and I could see this. And although his characters are outrageous and crazy and over the top, there I could almost like sympathize with some of them. Just I don't know. I mean, his main character is a woman, but it's played by a man. I mean, yeah. So I've just always been interested. He's kooky. He's clever. Just
Now, the first time you saw Divine, did you know that that was a man playing a woman?
I don't think I knew the first time.
No, I was young too, and I'm going,
I knew
I don't
something was
know.
up. I was like something's up, and I don't mind. I like it, but I, I thought this. I didn't know what was up, but I liked it.
So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town in West Virginia. So not Virginia, not Western Virginia, West Virginia, which some
West
people
by
don't.
God, Virginia.
Right, West by God, Virginia is the term. But
What small town?
uh, Madison, West Virginia.
Madison, West Virginia. It sounds wonderful.
Madison is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the dancing outlaw Jesco White, but he is also from Madison, West Virginia,
All right.
unfortunately.
So what you had a keen interest in John Waters. So how did that develop to what you do today?
I, when you're interested in John Waters, it just seems like you get sucked into this black hole of wanting to see everything that they've done, what everything that he's done. He's ultimately a writer. He's written every film that he's ever directed, and it just gets crazier and crazier. I mean, if you're lucky enough to start out in the early films, the filth films, the shock value films, I feel like you're maybe a little bit more lucky. But if you start with Hairspray and you go backwards, it's maybe a little more shocking. Um,
Yeah, the majority of the people who are aware of John Waters think of Hairspray. There's a
yeah, I
lot.
think of Hairspray.
There's a lot. So what do you do with your fandom of John Waters?
Well, I just it's basically a way for me to connect with like-minded people like myself, John Waters nerds, so to speak. I get to meet artists. I've got to connect with people that have been in his films in the years. I've got to talk to Tracy Lords, Ricky Lake, several people. My goal was to get free stuff at first, if I'm honest, and it worked. Um, the other guest, Mr. B Nation on the show, we and him have a connection with me sharing his art, and I get a lot of his pens, but that has worked. And now I'm getting to come and talk to people like you, and this was the goal.
So how do you share? What information do you have that you share?
Well, I share memes like screenshots of the movies. I do share information of his tours, any kind of products that are coming out, uh, dates, film. Anytime that they're doing films, like you can go to a literally a theater and watch a John Waters movie. I'll share just all information on John Divine, anything adjacent to that.
Well,
And I
so tell me about Divine. What are your impressions of Divine? You said it a little earlier. You talked a little bit earlier, but tell me more about Divine.
Divine to me was just this. Once I figured out who Divine was, I was just so interested. Divine started out as they thought they were terrible actors in the beginning, uh, but they were actually really good actors. They, I don't know, Divine's just clever. She could deliver the lines right. They're outrageous. She grabs you. She can keep your attention. Divine even had a recording career. Divine did disco, for God's sake, and dance
Oh,
music.
oh,
So
yeah. Divine had a vast career, and what
yes,
was it? The week before she died, they were supposed to be on Married with
the
Children.
children.
Yes,
Yeah,
just finally branching out and becoming. I don't think they wanted to be mainstream, but to be accepted.
right.
That
Accepted,
yes,
and
this is me.
they John always says that Divine wanted to play parts as a man. I mean, he just wanted to be an actor, a working actor.
You use what you got, and they certainly did.
I
So,
think
what's your favorite John Waters movies?
I have an an AD and a BC, so to speak.
Okay,
The BC would probably be Female Trouble, which Divine. That's in my opinion Divine's best role ever as Dawn Davenport. AD Divine is not in the movie, but it's Serial Mom. But Hairspray is a close second.
hmm now what about Dirty Shame?
I like Dirty Shame a lot.
I
I went
I,
to
I
a
like.
theater and saw Dirty Shame.
I really like that, and the soundtrack. If you ever get a chance to get a copy of the soundtrack, it's a wonderful, fun soundtrack with Johnny Knoxville. Even
I
that's
love those soundtracks. Speaking of Johnny Knoxville, not and I've already posted about this. Johnny Knoxville will be one of the guest camp counselors in 2023 at Camp John Waters in Kent, Connecticut.
oh my gosh. Have you ever been to the camp?
Unfortunately, I have not been able to make it to camp, but I will make it someday.
What's involved with the John Waters camp?
John Waters Camp, as far as I've heard, people I've talked to, you go there, it's fun, it's debauchery. There's no children. It's an adult camp. It's Camp Getaway in Kent, Connecticut. They play games. You can swim. It's in September, so it's still hot. You eat, you drink, you get to have dinner with John and usually Mink Stoll, and you'll get to basically like meet and greet. Last year, who was there? Kathleen Turner and Patricia Hearst was there last year, which is no, that might have been the year before. Yeah, that was the year before last year. But like, it's crazy, isn't that? Could you imagine being somewhere where Patricia Hearst is?
Oh my gosh, no, Patty Hearst. I remember when she was kidnapped. Oh yes, yes. And Johnny Knoxville's in the show that just finished up. I think it was on Hulu. Reboot, and he
Oh
was great
yeah,
in that.
I need to. I need to watch that.
I like him as an actor. Have you met John Waters?
I have actually met John Waters. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. I decided to go. I think this was when he had his uh, art exhibit called Indecent Exposure, which he also simultaneously put out a catalog, like a book, a $50 book. So you could go to BMA, the Baltimore Museum of Art, and listen to him talk about it. And then you could stand in line and you could bring anything that you want. He would sign it pre COVID, of course. But I did get to see him there, talk to him. It's very brief. But the one thing that stood out to me and I thought was funny and cool is he kept just raising his glass. I'm pretty sure he had a good buzz. I was so close to him I could smell his breath. He had white wine breath, but he kept putting his glass up, and they just kept bringing him full glasses of white wine, which I thought, God, that's power.
What did you take to have him sign?
What did I? Well, he signed the book. Um, there was an advocate years ago that they did a on the cover. It was him and Homer Simpson. It was this episode of when John was on The Simpsons. It's called Homer's Phobia. But he
Yeah.
signed that. He said, "I haven't seen this in years."
Oh
But
well, Scott, that is so cool. Scott, thank you so much. We're going to have you back later on
okay,
because we have some other guests, and you're connected with both of our other guests because you and Mr. B Nation correspond, never met in person or anything.
right.
And tell us the connection with Irving Green. Tell us that.
Irving Green. Literally today, two people have emailed me and said, "Oh my God, I know Irving Green." One of them is Noah Brody. Noah Brody is he runs the estate of Divine, so he runs the Divine official Instagram, and they sell merchandise. And the other one is someone actually from the state that I live in. His name is Derek. He lives in Los Angeles, but he's like, "I used to work with Irving." They both said they worked with Irving, and I just thought this is just such a small world.
I've worked with Irving too. He gets around. He gets
Uh-oh.
around.
What kind of work?
All right, Scott, we'll have you back later on in the show. Thank
All
you
right.
so much
Thank
for
you, Amber.
talking to us.